Alcohol has a long history and a great significance in our modern society. Oh, this video starts as a high school presentation. Of course, drinking is one of mankind's oldest pastimes. But besides that, alcohol also saved a lot of people and helped Europeans explore America. During the age of exploration, sailing from Europe to East Asia and the Americas could take months, and keeping water fresh for the cruise was a challenge. Adding a bucket of brandy or rum to a water barrel kept water fresh longer, because alcohol is a preservative that kills harmful microbes. That's why maybe the image of constantly drunk sailors and pirates exists in our days. But how does alcohol make us drunk? First, you should know that not only people like alcohol. On the Caribbean island of St. Kitts, there lives a population of wild green vervet monkeys that are notorious alcoholics. Way back when the monkeys liked to eat sugar canes used to make rum. Now, St. Kitts beaches are often full of tourists, kicking back and enjoying a cocktail. But even in the wild, many animals still can get drunk. Monkeys, raccoons, bears, bats and birds like to eat overripe fruits and berries and experience some strange effects. In 2014, several of Bahamian waxwing birds became so intoxicated that they were taken to an animal healthcare and treatment facility in the Yukon, Canada, in order to sober up. These animals and birds stumbled on a process that humans will use to create beer, wine and other alcoholic drinks. This process is called fermentation. Nobody knows exactly when humans began to create fermented beverages. The earliest known evidence comes from 7000 BCE in China. Within a few thousand years, cultures all over the world were fermenting their own drinks. Ancient Egyptians made beer throughout the year from stored cereal grains. In Greece and Rome, where grapes grew more easily, wine was as readily available as beer was in Egypt. The sugars in overripe fruits attract microscopic organisms known as yeasts. As the yeasts feed on the fruit sugars, they produce a compound called ethanol, the type of alcohol in alcoholic beverages. But at about 13% alcohol, the byproducts wild yeasts generated during fermentation become toxic and kill them. When the yeasts die, fermentation stops and the alcohol content levels off. So, for thousands of years, alcohol content was limited. That changed with the invention of a process called distillation. Alcohol boils at a lower temperature than water, so when we boil fermented liquids, it vaporizes first. Capture this vapor, cool it down, and you'll get a liquid with a much higher content of ethanol. Ethanol molecule, made of little more than a few carbon atoms, is responsible for drunkenness. Its simplicity helps it sneak across membranes and nestle into many different nooks, producing a wide range of effects compared to other clunkier molecules. So, how exactly does it cause drunkenness, and why does it have dramatically different effects on different people? To answer these questions, we'll need to follow alcohol on its journey through the body. Alcohol lands in the stomach. Here, about 20% of alcohol is absorbed through the stomach lining into the bloodstream, which means it is getting into the bloodstream very quickly. From the stomach, the alcohol that was not absorbed next travels to the small intestine. The contents of the stomach impact alcohol's ability to get into the blood, because after eating, the pyloric sphincter, which separates the stomach from the small intestine, closes. So, the level of alcohol that reaches the blood after a big meal might only be a quarter that from the same drink on an empty stomach. From the blood, alcohol goes to the organs, especially those that get the most blood flow: the liver, the lungs and the brain. It hits the liver first, and enzymes in the liver break down the alcohol molecule in two steps. First, An enzyme called ADH turns alcohol into acetaldehyde, which is toxic and carcinogenic. It is believed that this chemical is what causes the headaches associated with hangovers. Then, an enzyme called ALDH converts the toxic acetaldehyde to acetic acid, which is less harmful to the body. When alcohol is present, the liver will work on metabolizing it first. So, fatty acids can accumulate, which is why so many heavy drinkers developed fatty livers. As the blood circulates, the liver eliminates alcohol continuously. But if there is more alcohol than the liver enzymes can handle, it gets circulated to all parts of the body. It is estimated that the liver can eliminate about half an ounce of alcohol per hour, which is about 1 beer or 1 glass of wine or 1 shot. When alcohol reaches the heart, blood pressure decreases and blood vessels relax. The heart then pumps the alcohol-rich blood to the lungs. Some of the alcohol in the lungs is breathed out every time you exhale, causing your breath to smell of liquor. Alcohol increases blood flow to the skin, causing the person to turn red, and some people to sweat. Alcohol also decreases the body's production of antidiuretic hormone that helps your kidneys manage the amount of water in your body. The decrease of this hormone causes the kidneys to not reabsorb water. Instead, it is excreted, causing the body to become dehydrated. Once alcohol enters the brain, it slows down nerve cells that control your ability to move and think. Brain sensitivity is responsible for the emotional, cognitive and behavioral effects of alcohol, otherwise known as drunkenness. Alcohol turns up the brain's primary brake, the neurotransmitter GABA, and turns down its primary gas, the neurotransmitter glutamate. This makes neurons much less communicative and users feel relaxed at moderate doses, fall asleep at higher doses, and can impede the brain activity necessary for survival at toxic doses. Alcohol also stimulates a small group of neurons that extends from the midbrain to the nucleus accumbens, a region important for motivation. Like all addictive drugs, it prompts a squirt of dopamine in the nucleus accumbens, which gives users a surge of pleasure. Alcohol also causes some neurons to synthesize and release endorphins. Endorphins helps us to calm down in response to stress or danger. Elevated levels of endorphins contribute to the euphoria and relaxation associated with alcohol consumption. Finally, as the liver's breakdown of alcohol outpaces the brain's absorption, drunkenness fades away. Individual differences at any point of this journey can cause people to act more or less drunk. For example, a man and a woman who weigh the same and drink the same amount during an identical meal will still have different blood alcohol concentrations. This is because women tend to have less blood. Women generally have a higher percentage of fat, which requires less blood than muscle. A smaller blood volume carrying the same amount of alcohol means the concentration will be higher for women. Genetic differences in the liver's alcohol processing enzymes also influence blood alcohol concentration, and regular drinking can increase production of these enzymes, contributing to tolerance. On the other hand, those who drink excessively for a long time may develop liver damage, which has an opposite effect. Meanwhile, genetic differences in dopamine, GABA and endorphin transmission may contribute to risk for developing an alcohol use disorder. Those with naturally low endorphin or dopamine levels may self-medicate through drinking. Some people have a higher risk for excessive drinking due to a sensitive endorphin response that increases the pleasurable effects of alcohol. Others have a variation in GABA transmission that makes them especially sensitive to the sedative effects of alcohol, which decreases the risk of developing disordered drinking. They cannot drink a lot because they fall asleep. By the way, the exact causes of hangover are not completely understood, but there are several factors that may contribute to it. as I said before, acetaldehyde causes the headaches. The increase in urination leading to dehydration, which could cause the thirst, dry mouth and dizziness. Some immune cells produce substances called cytokines, which can contribute to nausea and fatigue. Some alcoholic beverages increase the release of gastric acid and delay the emptying of the contents in the stomach, which could be the reason for the stomach pain associated with hangovers. Alcohol can also interfere with the liver's production of glucose, the main form of energy for cells, which could contribute to dizziness, disorientation, and lack of energy. But at any age, as with many other drugs, the brain and body become less sensitive after repeated uses. The brain adapts to chronic alcohol consumption by reducing GABA, dopamine, and endorphin transmission, and enhancing glutamate activity. This means regular drinkers tend to be anxious, have trouble sleeping, and experience less pleasure. So it takes more and more to achieve same effects. These structural and functional changes can lead to disordered use when drinking feels normal, but not drinking is uncomfortable, establishing a vicious cycle. When some people first started drinking, they thought they would only drink on special days. Little did they know that every day would become a special day. Thus, both genetics and previous experience impact how a person experiences alcohol, which means that some people are more prone to certain patterns of drinking than others, and the history of consumption leads to neural and behavioral changes. Long-term effects for the alcohol addicts include malnutrition, stomach disorders like ulcers and gastritis, and anemia, which is a low amount of oxygen carried by red blood cells. It can lead to cell death in the liver and brain, leading to these organs not functioning properly. The risk of heart failure increases, and many heavy drinkers have high blood pressure. Overconsumption of alcohol can also lead to relationship problems, depression, and employment problems. So, you should remember that almost anything can be preserved in alcohol, except your health, happiness, and money.